rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Alvarez.
Here.
Councilwoman Eckhart.
Here.
Councilman Lord.
Here.
Supervisor Hay.
Here. Notations of the exits up in the front, rear. Any electronic device, please put it on vibrate.
I just did the demonstration for like on the airplane.
You're becoming, what do they call stewardess? What do they call a male stewardess?
Steward. It's a
Steward?
flight attendant.
No, flight attendant.
Flight
Everyone's
attendant.
flight attendant, yeah.
Okay, John's the official flight attendant for this evening. Okay, first item on the agenda is a public hearing for the 2019 budget. I make a motion to open the public hearing and waive the reading of it.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Amy, I believe we requested you come up and give us a bit of an update quick on the museum.
Thank you. Hello. I'm Amy Campanero, the director of the Southeast Museum in Brewster, of course, Main Street. I think I need a step stool or something. I've been so short in all my life, all right?
We raised that a little bit.
Did you
too, so I
raise
can put-
that?
Yeah,
I have
I
wheels on it,
There's
so I
just
don't have to carry it.
a trap door underneath me,
Yeah.
that's why it's lower, so I go down. So thank you for inviting me to speak this evening. I'm here to talk a little bit about the museum, what we do, and our 2018 season. So as many of you know, the museum's been around for 55 years. We started in 1963. Part of Putnam County's 150th anniversary in 1962. We had a temporary museum on Main Street, and according to the Brewster Standard, which likes to exaggerate, there was 9,000 people that came in 3 months to the storefront museum, and William Quinn and a bunch of people from the Brewster Chamber of Commerce decided that we needed to have a full-time museum. So in 1963, they started as a full-time museum, and we received our permanent temporary charter in 1963 and permanent in 1966 from the New York State Education Department. So
Slow
every
down
year,
a little bit.
okay. Well, I teach, and if I don't speak fast when I teach, I forget about like
Yeah,
the
but I'm the
proclamation of
poor student going, so you
1763.
gotta go slow.
All right.
Okay.
So, 1966, we get our permanent charter. We do a report every year from the New York State Education Department. So every year we send them how many objects we accessioned, what we deaccessioned, which means how we get rid of something. If we take something into our collection, it's like the Dewey Decimal System. We give it a special number, and then we have to take care of it forever, unless somehow it gets damaged or it doesn't pertain to our mission anymore. If we get rid of it, we have to tell New York State why we got rid of it, how we got rid of it, et cetera. So there's a lot of oversight from New York State about the artifacts that we have. We have about 8,000 artifacts to about 9,000, depends on how you count them. Sometimes we have suits, and if it was a three-piece suit, sometimes one of our curators named it as a three-piece suit. Somebody said it was a one-piece suit, and it was just one piece. So there's a little difference in that, but some items that we have at the museum, which everyone's always interested in, is we have a 130-year-old cucumber, which I don't think I need to go into more detail than that. It's bizarre.
I've seen it.
Lynn has seen it. That we took in 1963, so it's something that I was not around to say, no, let's not take this. We have Henry Wells's uniform, his Spanish-American uniform. We have his father's Civil War uniform and Civil War sword and Civil War diary. He was stationed down in the South after the Civil War during Reconstruction, so we have that. We have toothbrushes from the early 1800s. We have any type of Americana material culture that there is. Spinning wheels, cannonballs. It's a very diverse, bizarre collection that we have. So everything we take in, like I said, we have to take care of forever. So that's a lot of cost in it, putting everything in an archival box and making sure that it's there forever. So the museum's mission is to take in and to preserve and to take care of the history of the town of Southeast and surrounding areas. So our focus is the town of Southeast and, of course, the village of Brewster. So once we take something in, we have to put it in an archival box, put it in climate control, et cetera, et cetera. And due to some of the things that we got in now in 2018 season was a World War II uniform that we received. We also received documents from 1763 to 1945, different documents. And yeah, I mean, you have to think 1763 was when the French and Indian War ended. It's when the proclamation of 1763 that no one can go over the Appalachian Mountains, the colonists. So we have things that when the town of Southeast was under the British rule. And then we have things, of course, the town of Putnam County became Putnam County in 1812. So we have things going up before that as well, and then, of course, into the 19th and 20th century. So it's a long time frame of what we have. We have things from Walter Brewster with his name on it. We have the Salmon, the Fowlers, the Cranes. This is just things that we collected this year. Also DeFrost Corners, Milltown area. So we've been getting a lot of documents in. And one of the most probably heartwarming things, I've been at the museum, it'll be 20 years in February. So if there's any gold watches out there that I might borrow one from the collection and maybe give myself that for the day. So one of the most heartwarming things of being in the museum for 20 years is that people still give us their families' heirlooms. People have held on to documents from 1763. I mean, there's a ledger of a blacksmith in 1760s and 1770s of how many, horse buckles he made, how many hinges he made, that they held on to that from the 1700s. Someone in their family passed it from generation to generation, and they decided to give it to us. I mean, that's, when you get like, oh, my job's getting a little boring, or what am I going to do? That they care that much about the town of Southeast and their history that they want us to preserve that, and they know if they give it to the museum, we will preserve it for generations and generations, and that we can't just throw it out one day and say we don't like it, that there's all these protocols that we have to follow and guidelines from New York State. So I have to say that's the most heartwarming, that they could give it to their family, they could sell it on eBay and maybe make some money on it or not, or do whatever, but they decide and they say, you know what, my kids want it, but we'll make a scan and give my kids the scan, you can have the originals. So that really is heartwarming from my point of view of being there for so long, that someone wants to give me their 130-year-old, cucumber, make it into a pickle, or whatever else they want to do. But so we collect the town of Southeast history, we preserve it, we hold on to it, we interpret it. So I think a lot of people see the museum and they're like, oh, what are your programs, what are your exhibits, which we do. But behind the scenes, we're always collecting this stuff, we're going through, we're doing inventory, making sure nothing's got damaged, there's no mold growing, and then we interpret the history. So we sit down and read through that ledger, that blacksmith's, and then we try to write some type of historical article or something about that and keep it in our archives for research for future generations. So there's always that behind the scenes work that we do that no one really sees. I'm in the block building sitting down and typing or doing whatever, and that's what I'm doing. I'm going through all the archives and stuff like that. So part of what our programs and outreach that we do, we go to CV Star School every year with their Colonial Fair. We started their Colonial Fair about, I think in 2000, they started their Colonial Fair, and we helped them do that. Now we're back in teaching them that. We go to the second grade and talk to them about local history. Excuse me. We do, this past year, we were interviewed in February with the Travel Channel's Mysteries at the Museum, and we will be on their show in the beginning of, they say this winter, so this winter or maybe the early spring. So we're going to be on an, fairly large television show. We've been, I know Lynn always likes to talk about, we've been on the Korean Broadcasting System. We're the second highest rated documentary in Korea, if anyone goes there, on contaminated foods and milk. So they came in because they saw our website and said, oh, Board and Milk, we want to come here. And they came all the way from Korea, and they went to other places. They went to 5 countries and other places in New York State, but they interviewed us. Travel Channel, same thing. They saw that we had something on Board and Milk, and they wanted to look at our collection of what we had. So we do outreach of programs. We do reoccurring children's programs throughout the summer. We do a lot of STEM science and technology and mathematics, tying history and science together, talking about the Tilly Foster iron mine, magnetic properties, the reservoir system, clean water, and stuff like that. So we really try to do more niche programming than arts and crafts. So we've been doing that. We also do a lot of programs with the Brewster Library. We do history exchange. We do for children. We've done colonial kids, and this year we did kind of industrial kids and history rocks, different programs with them. And I do the historical component based on the age group, and they do the arts and crafts program that. So we kind of split it off that way. We also do history exchange, which I just mentioned, is the second Wednesday of every month at 6 to 7 o'clock. We do it in the library program room. And we have notables such as Joe Chiclanti, who comes, who used to be former Southeast supervisor, and he talks about Southeast in the 1940s, 50s, 60s, and 70s, and everyone just is glued to everything he says. So we do a lot of oral history and recording of old-timers and their stories. That has also added a lot of people coming into the museum, coming to the museum programs and giving us a lot of things, a lot of artifacts because of that. We do a monthly history book club as well. We do, we do weekly museum quilters, which is kind of neat. So if you want to learn how to quilt, you can come in and quilt. Our quilters are working on a new quilt that will be featured in our, and I think you guys all got the invitation to the museum, is working with the Brewster High School on an original play about Putnam County World War I. So what we did was did 2 years of research of taking all Putnam County veterans that we have their letters home, which were published in the Putnam County Courier and the Brewster Standard. We took those letters, we went through our collection, see if we have any photographs of those people, any, hopefully when they're younger and, in the decent time frame from 1918, 1917, 1918. Took our collection of artifacts. We worked with the Putnam Patterson Historical Society, the Putnam History Museum. We worked with Harvard to get permissions to use their items and their photographs. And it's an original play, like I said, and the Brewster High School will be performing it Veterans Day weekend. So the students are going to immerse themselves in real-life characters of people from Putnam County, of Danny Ludley, Dan Ludley, that we all know, his uncle Danny Ludley, who was got a got a Purple Heart in World War I. Daniel Brandon, who got a Purple Heart and who was also a prisoner of war, whose grandchildren are still in the area. So it's very local, and the students can immerse themselves and read the letters aloud. We have female roles such as Ruby Hartfield, who is related to the House family. So it's going to be really neat with period songs, and we're working on all the museum images which are going to be projected onto the screen. So it's been, like I said, a project in the 2 years in the making. We finally, if we don't do it now, what's the point? It's the armistice of World War I. So we're really happy to be working with the schools and kind of marrying history and theater arts together. So we're very happy about that. And the museum quilters have made a quilt as a prop for that, and then they're going to raffle that off and sell it, and the proceeds will help the museum offset our expenses that have to do with the play. So I'm trying to think of anything else. So we do a lot of programming. We do our exhibit panels around town. We've worked with the county clerk's office, and we have exhibit panels in the DMV. So if you go into the DMV and you're sitting online and you get maybe a little annoyed, you can read about Putnam County's POWs or, Purple Heart recipients or women, suffrage trying to get the right to vote. And that's going to be a rotating exhibit that we're doing with the county. So we'll have those up for a few months and put new ones up. We have some at Putnam County Savings Bank. We also have some in the county building as well as the Brewster Library and other places. So we're trying to put our exhibits around town that people know where we are and such. And I think that's, our upcoming events are we having our annual magic show, which is a big draw if you guys want to learn about how to make balloon animals, on December 1st, and our caroling event, which we're very happy because we're going to have the Danbury Mad Hatters Barbershop Chorus come and lead us in singing. Because every year I personally don't like to sing, and every year I mouth the words, and then, you have people who want to go and they don't really want to sing. So now that we have professional singers, for the last year and this year, now people feel a little more impressed and kind of want to sing along if they know that they're not the only voice that's out there. So we're looking forward to that, and that's our big event before we close for the season. So we do that. It's a free event. We usually get between 50 and 80 families, so it's pretty nice. We close down Main Street and go back, walk up and down the street. So that's our big ta-da for the end of the year, and then we, open up in May or June of the following year, 2019.
Amy, when your documentary comes onto TV, can you maybe notify the local press? Because it'd be nice to have some advertising for that and get the people to watch that.
Yes. I'd like to do it after the fact, so no one can see me on television, but yes.
They're seeing you now.
No, I'd love to put it on our website, so too bad for you.
The Brewster patch or something,
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, but put it somewhere.
Yeah,
I'll put it in the circular file. I think I will.
no,
But,
yeah. it's
Anybody
important.
have any questions of Amy?
I do.
Go.
Okay. To dispel rumors, I had asked Amy to come because the museum was closed quite a bit this summer, and just so people know, we give the museum $40,000. I was not looking to close down the museum, and I think Amy and I work together well. And what's really exciting is with the library expansion and Old Town Hall, hopefully the theater, and with museum, I think we'll have a real cultural hub, and it's really exciting to me. So, question for you
Yes.
is, do you have any idea what your exhibit will be this year?
For 2019?
Yeah,
I don't. I know I spoke to you a little bit, and we talked about
Right.
maybe things that we have brought in, like new acquisitions into the collection.
Right.
So we've been thinking about that. But right now, we've been going through the inventory. So we go through every single box of the clothing and make sure everything's intact, and then go through all the photos. So we usually do that at our November, December board
okay.
meetings.
Because
Decide,
a lot of the, was it the Fowler family?
Yes, yep, the
Yeah.
Fowler family, which is the Crane family as
Right.
well, which go date back to the Revolutionary times.
Because you got great letters, right?
Oh my goodness, we have.
Yeah. So,
Which leads us to slavery too. So we have, talking all the census records and who owned slaves and, during colonial times and stuff.
right,
So
yeah, the
it's
census back from what, 1790?
1790, our
Yeah,
first
it's
census.
Was Lynn on that one?
Amy's not going to be that mean tonight, I don't think.
I don't think I'm ever, but okay.
No, you're not at all. So, good. I mean, I think, you know, there were some problems this year because of the renovations that were done
Yes.
upstairs. And I'm hoping, have you gotten results back on any of the
I
tests
have
yet?
an email into the company that has
Great.
done it, so
Okay,
just
and so
hopefully-
you and I will keep in contact and make sure that everything gets done.
Yes.
So it's ready to open and can open safely for everybody, so, no, I really appreciate your presentation. And by the way, years ago, and I don't remember if it was you or Danielle, now I am feeling like I'm from 1790, but they did a reservoir,
Reservoir tours?
yeah, and not just that, but and I don't know when the last time you did do a program on the reservoirs, but it was really fascinating.
We have an exhibit usually up on the
Yeah.
reservoir. I
Yeah.
know Carl Pika did a tour of the reservoir. He no longer works at the DEP. And
Right.
then after September 11th, when trying to get into the reservoirs, they might have loosened things up, but it was a lot
Yeah.
difficult. They said they didn't want us doing tours or anything
Right.
near the dams or
Right,
this or that.
right.
So it's a good chance now that we can go back and talk to them and see maybe
Yeah.
they loosened
Yeah,
the
it was really
restrictions.
fascinating, and we're so surrounded by it. But anyhow, thank you so much for coming tonight. I really
Oh, you're
appreciate it.
welcome.
And I
Thank
don't
you
know
for
if
having me.
other people have questions.
Yes. The artifacts, are they all kept on site at the museum itself, or are they in storage in other
Most
locations?
of them are in storage in the block building, in the Gold Lot parking lot. So
Okay.
right across, which is nice that we can walk right across there, and it's climate control there. Everything is put into an acid-free box. If it's clothing, if it's wool, we put silk wrappings around it. And if you fold the jacket can't, the sleeve can't touch the rest of the jacket. You have to put cloth in between that. So every year, we opened up every single lid, make sure the clothing, there's nothing growing on it, because you never know if it gets it's been a very humid summer. So even if there's a little moisture in there, and mold likes to grow on a lot of the men's clothing, since it's mostly wool, women are silk and cotton, it doesn't grow as much. So we just go through that, but yeah, all of our artifacts are in there. We have a few in the museum, not that much, some of the larger furniture, and then we do rent a building at 10 Marvin Avenue, which is right behind the museum, where we have our larger farm implements that can handle being out in a little more rugged, position and things like that. And lots of, we just have draws of planes and, different angles and miter boxes and things like that, but they can handle, hay rakes and stuff like that. But most of it is in the block building, all of our textiles and documents and maps and things like that.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah.
So, and thank you. I think the lines of communication are so much better between Old Town Hall and you guys and the museum, and I think that's really helpful too, because I hope when it's done, it'll be fantastic for everyone,
So I think so,
eventually.
too. It will.
That's right.
Good.
Nothing in my end, I'm
No?
down there too much, I think.
Yeah. That's because you like it.
I know.
So,
All right, thank you.
Okay,
Thanks, Amy.
thank you.
thanks, Amy.
Okay, anyone else on the budget? Seeing none, I make a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, first item on the work session is discussion amend the zoning for home occupation law. Ms. Lai, would you like to help us? And we're all going to be looking at the draft dated October 25, 2018. It's highlighted in red.
And before Ashley starts, and she can barely, it's like the worst idea ever. Can I just say on the budget, Tony, that I wanted to thank Ron Hund, because he was great to work with.
Good.
And you have been great too, so thank you.
I'll get that to you.
Yeah, hi Ashley. Jeez. It's like worst.
Where is
Okay.
she?
Yeah, exactly. Need
Have
stills.
a seat, Mike.
Oh my
Yeah, the
God.
mic works.
Yeah,
So,
okay. We'll ignore that, the rest of it.
so what you have before you is a draft local law regarding home occupations. We've had a number of applicants over the last few years that have come in for various types of home occupations that didn't completely fit within the zoning as it stands today. One example is oftentimes people want to use a detached structure on their property, like a barn or a garage for their home occupation, and that was not allowed, or is not allowed under the current code. There's also different types of uses, and uses have evolved over the years.
The what?
I said uses have evolved over the years of what would be an
Evolve,
appropriate
okay.
home occupation. The current code is pretty much stuck in the 1950s or 60s with the types of uses that it allowed, such as millinery and home cooking. So the idea here is to make the code a little bit more flexible with the types of uses that would not be disruptive to neighbors. So allowing more home-based office type uses, uses like an internet-based business where you're not having lots of customers coming to the property, but you may be running online sales or consulting, that sort of thing. So there is a change to the draft that you just received. and-
Now, outbuildings are in now?
Excuse me?
Outbuildings are in?
Outbuildings would be allowed, but there's a cap on the floor area that could be
Right.
used.
Okay.
The key here is that a home occupation shall be clearly accessory to the principal residential use of the dwelling and shall not change the character thereof.
Okay.
So one of the changes in this draft that I just passed out, and this is based on a conversation we had at our staff meeting this morning, is the definition of what a doctor was and whether that was going to capture things like a physical therapist or a speech pathologist, which are types of uses that have come forward recently. So this current draft changes it to an office of a professional person licensed to practice under the education law of the state of New York. So that's a much broader category, and on the back of that sheet is a list of all of the professions that are licensed by the state of New York. And you will notice on that list that there are a couple things that wouldn't be appropriate for a home
Right.
occupation. So under item 3, I've added that home occupations shall exclude birthing centers, because midwifery is allowed as is a licensed, pharmacy establishments, and any minimally invasive or invasive medical procedure. So the idea being that you could have a consultation with a doctor in their home office, but any procedures would have to be
Right.
at a medical facility.
Yeah, and my concern on this was always, because we're septic and well in general, that this is something that, that we really want to be careful of. And anything, pharmaceuticals or whatever can be used, so.
Do you have any idea how often the licensed professions have changed by New York State?
I don't know that offhand.
Okay, I'm just wondering, I mean, you have a list here. Our
Yes.
biggest concern, one of the concerns, we don't want to list individuals because you're going to miss some occupation. So this probably carries it the best, but if something gets added, you'll produce one of these maybe once a year?
Right, so this list wouldn't be necessarily adopted by the, and included in the code, it just would be referred to that
Referred
section of
to,
the law.
okay.
So
Right.
if it changed at the state level, it would automatically change
Change
within the
here.
code.
Okay,
And then the idea is that under item 3 is to capture anything that we see as being problematic to being in a residential neighborhood. And
Right.
just prohibit that type of use.
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
that's good.
because we're gonna, we're gonna obviously keep, I would hope, keep the public hearing or whatever we need to open so we can, or the discussion, so.
Well, we're
Because we need a lot of fine tuning, I think.
So I was going to set for a public hearing in 2 weeks, no?
I have a lot of questions. I don't know how John feels or Edmund feels. I mean, unless we feel
Well,
that,
you can ask them be part of the public hearing.
right, we just want to make sure that whatever, that we have to, when we advertise it, I mean, we need to make sure that,
Do you have lists now that you want to discuss?
yes, I guess, yeah, we can,
Well, we
We
should
can
make it as
discuss.
complete as possible when we advertise.
I was just given this, that's why I'm not prepared, which is not
What do you
Ashley's
mean,
fault.
the list itself?
Yeah, there are things that I'd like to discuss with Ashley offline, rather than take up a ton of time here.
Okay,
If
so,
do we need to get this done next
No.
meeting or anything? Well, there's
no,
no,
there's no,
okay. I don't want it to
There's
fall
not a
through the
timeline,
cracks,
But
but,
there have been, applicants that have come forward.
Right.
And
Yes.
there is one pending before the town right now.
what kind of occupation?
Well, it was denied its zoning variance, so, but.
It has to do with a
they go
vehicle?
away. Yeah, so under this code, it would expressly prohibit a limousine service from being a home occupation.
Right.
Okay, so if we delay,
yeah, I'd like to take my time and really go over this so we get it right the first, that's maybe it's me and I'm slow on the uptake, but that's what I'd like to do.
No, I agree.
And as I said, I don't want to put it off for long either. I just want to have a chance to really try to get this right the first time.
Okay, so you're gonna put together a package,
Sure,
run
I'll
it past
work with
Ashley for our
Ashley on
next
this.
meeting, and then we'll have, not that we need you to come back, but add to it.
Okay, so we can revise this over the next 2 weeks.
I'd like to. I think
Sure.
it would be helpful.
And now that we've seen what you have in red, the next one comes out, do it in red, and that'll be whatever you guys discuss
Yes.
thereafter.
Yes,
I'll accept these changes and then
Yes.
make the next ones right.
right. Is that fine with you, Edwin?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Is perfusion, is that perfumer? What is that?
No, it's not. I
yeah,
looked that
what-
up. It's actually, that's a medical procedure that would have to occur. It's in probably a hospital setting. It has to do with
Oh,
blood and it being
Oh,
under anesthesia.
okay.
I don't know the
You
exact
can
definition
stop there.
offhand, but
Okay, yeah, podiatry and stuff.
Can we
Okay,
have a PowerPoint with that?
okay. No, this would be great. So I'll work with you and we can try to fine tune this and then we'll bring it back for another discussion and then we could do hopefully after that point.
okay.
Okay, so we'll put it on the next agenda again on the
Yeah,
work
please.
session.
I think that would be great.
Now, Ashley, while you're here, discussion on EAF, does anyone have any questions on the EAF?
No, I look through, I don't, does it?
So the-
Actually, I do have one other question though while you're here. It wasn't do you remember the one, was it a distillery? There was some home occupation. Do you remember that? a few
There
years
was a
ago?
distillery that received a home occupation conditional use permit a few years ago and was going to be located in their basement.
Right.
And that's
Like,
something like
just a
that.
hobby? It was more of
They
a
were going to
hobby
be
for you?
selling it at
No, they were selling.
craft, like food markets and things like that.
Right.
And that would still be allowed under this code.
Okay. And then another question, I do have questions real quick, so I don't forget them. So why is the horse and pony thing, why is that, we still allow equestrian centers, which is different and would not fall into this, right? But on row, yeah, it's not,
Okay.
you see where it is?
Yes, so
Why-
that is a cleanup item in the code, because under this draft, well, actually, after that section of the code was updated, there was a update to allow people to board horses for compensation with a conditional use permit. And the way that this draft now takes out, it's basically moving everything into the conditional use permit section,
Okay,
as opposed to having it be in 2 places in the code. So it's more of a cleanup item.
okay. I was just confused, so. And I don't think we have this problem here, and it says, no permit should be required for seasonal yard, garage, or tag sale. So we don't have to limit those, I don't think, to once, when it says seasonal, does that imply once a year? I remember years ago when they were super popular, some people, I know one location which had them almost every other weekend, and that's, I didn't know whether we should, I don't want to be too limiting at all, but I don't, and right now, I don't think anyone abuses this, but I would say we might want to be a little cautious.
I am aware of the building department getting one complaint over a reoccurring tag sale for,
Okay.
you know, a number of weeks.
Okay,
There isn't a cap here,
right,
but I think seasonal meeting, maybe up to 4 times a year,
okay.
once per season.
Okay, well, we can look at that offline too and see how we can make it work for our residents, but not annoy neighborhoods.
Right.
That's all I want to make sure we do, so, okay. So I'll make a note of that, and then I'll forget.
And then it also, you know, any sale of your property on eBay that's, you know, you're not having a lot of people coming to the house, that kind of thing would be totally allowed.
Right, oh, yeah, yeah, I don't want to infringe on anything like that, but, okay.
Is that limited to so many trips a day, or?
So the number of trips that would, there's not trips that are limited per day, it's the number of customers that can
Okay.
come to your house, or patients, or,
And that would
Clients.
also,
That would fall into that.
that would
Okay.
fall into that. So there's a number that's included in the draft, which is
To
12.
12, yeah,
No more than 12 customer vehicles shall visit the premise of the home occupation per day. But there's also flexibility for the planning board to impose additional restrictions on that or further cap it if they're concerned about the particular use that's being presented to them.
okay. All right, well, let's work on this, and then we'll bring it back and see if we can get it right, and then hold a public hearing, so
Sure.
people can comment. or
Okay.
people can comment
Any
now.
other
but-
questions, Ashley? Ashley, thanks for coming.
Yeah, that was really helpful.
Okay, next item on the agenda is discussion expenditure of funds for the construction of Lakeview Manor. I provided you tonight with a colored chart. The other one was black and white and wasn't quite readable. We applied, before I actually got into office, the town had applied for some grants for Lakeview. There's been, I don't know, discussion on it. I've been reading about it in the paper for, I would say, well over a decade, about a new center and whatever. The costs were kind of like way out there and we never got done. We do have a beautiful location as far as, scenic. It's right on Lake Tenetta. So some funding became available from the state, DASNY grant. We got $450,000 toward it. So when I got it into my hands, which was around 2013, 14, somewhere in there, we had to put together a spreadsheet about the cost to come up to $450,000. Well, as you see, the final cost is around $700,000, so finding $450 was pretty simple. So with that, we got the grant monies, and then after that, we went out to bid. We had 2 contractors that bid, and we put it out, either one contractor could do all the work, or we could break it down and take whoever was successful on the original bid. When it went out, we had excavating, framing, roofing, sheet rock, finishing work, siding, windows and doors, glass work. We had a deck on at that point in time, stonework, elevator, handicap accessibility. And with that, we had 2 vendors. We split, not quite. One person got, 4 items to 1, 5 items individually. Bottom line, as we went on, we broke it down further. The one person who only got 4 of the items chose not to bid. He didn't feel it was worthwhile to come up here into Putnam. He was out of Westchester County, and said for the 4 items, his total work was about $60,000. He chose not to take it, so basically reverted back to the only contractor. But then what happened with the only contractor, the roofer came in, one roofer came in with the bid and won the bid from the other 2 people in the contract. Unfortunately, he misread the bid quote, and even though he was the lowest price, it wasn't, a bona fide lowest price. So then we put it out to bid again, and the original low bidder was no longer the low bidder, and we had another bidder and came in. So the bottom line to the whole thing is, it did run up. So in the end, what you see on the first page is basically everything that went out in the original bid. What you see on the second page is all the additional work that was done, which was not accounted for in the initial one, because again, the first time we went out for a price on this, we went out just for certain items. So on this one here now, it includes all the plumbing. Now, in the building, the women's room used to have 2 toilets and a sink, was not handicap accessible. The new building has 4 toilets, 2 sinks, and it's handicap accessibility. In the men's room, they had a urinal and a toilet. They were definitely not handicap accessible. They are now, so now we have 2 urinals and 2 toilets, handicap accessible. As far as the lighting, there's lighting for the main hall. There was a 200 amp service back about 22 years ago. They put a 200 amp service from the original 100. Now it's a 400 amp service. There's new lightings in the entrance, in the exterior. We have lights in the new room. There's a new room. It's about, I don't even guess the size, 20 by,
It's big,
pardon? Yeah, it's big.
really big.
And the whole wall, if anyone knows Lakeview Manor, the whole back wall had some windows in it, but the lake is right behind it, Tenetta Lake is there. It's a window wall. There's 3 large windows, and in the other room, there's 2 smaller windows, but basically the whole wall is all windows, and the views, I mean, Lynn went out there,
Yeah, the views are just beautiful. It's really going to be a great community center, I think. Really, it's beautiful.
So we have lights there. Now we got in there, ceiling fans. Now at the end of the unit going toward the lake, there was one big fan up there, and it would either suck out too much or whatever. So we have brand new air conditioning. brand-new heating system, each one of the rooms. They have these new things, I don't know what they actually call them, but there's units that's up on the wall, they're about 4 foot long. They do heat and electricity, works really well. So we put ceiling fans in, I think we got five in the main room, 2 in the small room. The bathrooms, like I said, were updated. The floors in the main room, they were wood. And carpeting, the carpeting's coming up, all be wood, all be redone. HVAC, which I mentioned previously. And then things we hadn't considered in the bid, but we have to pay is for dumpsters. Now, we want spray foam installation. Now, a lot of what we had to do there, believe it or not, we're all responsible by code. When we went to the building department, he treated us just like any other applicant. We didn't meet code, we had to meet code. That's why the bathrooms had to be a certain amount of handicap accessibilities, had to have just the proper number of toilets. The building will hold X number of people, and based on those number of people, we had to provide the toilets. So then we came to the spray foam. Now, the building was built way back when, and it was a long, geez, when, 40s and 50s. There's a whole story in it. Matter of fact, I'm going to show you all the story behind this little, it used to be,
Do an oral history.
Yep.
yeah. Okay, so at any rate, the history of it's very interesting. In the old days, when Brewster became, or Southeast became Southeast, all these lakeside communities kind of each had their own little niche. Everybody that had bought property up there around up where I live, which was considered to be Tenaya Lake Heights, all had, we have deeded rights to get to the lake. I still don't know how I get there, but I have a deeded right to get there at some point in time. And I think it was down where we are.
Right.
Okay. Now, over the years, Tenaya Lake, ours has grown up. It's got a lot of lily pads and things of that nature. Still, the best part of the park is where we have our park. That's the best area for the water and for swimming. So basically, the building department had things that we had to do. And one of them was, there was never insulation like under the floorboards and everything in the castle. It looks like a castle. So we had to do that. We went with spray foam, probably double the cost, but it's probably 2 to 3 times more efficient than normal installation. Let's see, fire burglar alarm, the repaving of the parking lot. Now, cheap old me wasn't gonna put a generator in. I said, we got a generator here, we have UCP. And then when they said, well, if you lose electricity for any length of time, how are you gonna heat the place? So guess what? I had to put a generator. We're gonna be putting in natural gas instead of propane. There's a line right outside, so we've ordered that. The generator, believe it or not, if you get natural gas, is about $3,000 cheaper. So we're looking at about $11,900 for the generator. And we're gonna put a sound system in. We have a fairly good sound system here. I don't hear too many complaints. Matter of fact, I talked to our videographer. I do wanna try to improve the acoustics even in this room. So we may be changing the way the speakers work in here, because you can't quite hear, especially when there's, like tonight, it's easy because there's not a lot of people here. But when we have like certain hearings and places packed, you can't hear as well. So we're gonna try to experiment with, maybe putting 4
It's because
speakers.
the podium's too high,
You guys gotta grow.
I guess.
Maybe what we'll do is give you a little stool.
Yeah.
Okay, so with that, we're putting the sound system in. We have a rough estimate for it. Our videographer has volunteered to help a little bit. He'll be paid for certain things, but he's volunteered some of his time to go up there and take a look at us. And hopefully we'll get that in. So the bottom line is, I asked for, right now it says $267,000. This cost can still come down. The request will be for $275,000, not to exceed $275,000. I could fund it different ways than the way I propose. However, we don't have a lot of money yet in the reserve fund for recreation. We all know where that went, in case you want to buy a spray park, which we can't sell. And again, hopefully, Lynn, you can be our best spokesman and tell us how nice it looked like not the best, but anyone that has any kind of vision can see by just going in there how it is. So again, there's going to be a lift for the handicap accessibility. It's inside, there's no worry about snow. And I think we've covered everything we needed to put into the new building. The kitchen was pretty good. The kitchen was done quite some time ago, and all we have to do there is buy a new stove, and we have a new refrigerator to be put in there. We have a lot of storage room, a lot of closet space.
Yeah.
And the seniors are happy, but it's not a senior center, it's a community center. And I think we'll pass a resolution to name it a community center. After nobody, we don't want anyone's name associated with it. We'll just call it, you know, Southeast Community Center.
Or Lakeside.
That's, that way it's for
Or Lake-
everybody.
it can be Lakeview
Yeah, well, Lakeview Community Center.
Center, which would be really nice.
And I'll
Yeah,
ask we do that by resolution, and again, not to name it after anyone, because it's a community center for everybody.
I like that there are 2 rooms. There's one, although both of them are large, but the smaller room will be great for meetings, and 2 events can go on at once, which I thought was really nice, so.
So I'm gonna put this on to the next agenda for that funding, and I'm just gonna tell them to keep on working, because now I'm trying to get, we're not rushing this, we did run into some delays. When I was first told about it, I was told that we're wetland buffer. Well, we're not, we're in the wetland
Yeah.
buffer. And I didn't even know, the building itself, about 1 foot of it sits in the wetland buffer, which I was unaware of. So we had to go to the DEC and get that permit. I had plenty of time to get it beforehand, but no one ever told me we were in the buffer. I thought we were outside the buffer. So that held up 6 weeks. And if any of you have seen how much rain we've had this year, that was another big drawback. You can't work there in the rain. It's just muddy as all heck. So that delayed it a bunch. So I'm keeping the seniors continue to ask me, when are we going back? When are we going back? Well, I'm trying to be as honest as I can with them. I don't know. So I'm trying to commit to Christmas, but again, we may miss it, at least the Christmas party, not Christmas Day. So that's the goal. In the meantime, UCP has offered us space, which we've been using. The Sheet Metals Worker Union, is that what it's called?
Yeah,
The Sheet Metal Worker Union building. We've been paying to put people there. Someone else has donated space to one of the other programs for the town. So everyone's working with us to kind of patchwork us until we get it done. And to the seniors, I take full responsibility for the delay, but you just don't know how this stuff works.
and Tony, the 275,000 is not raising taxes, it's coming out of.
We're
you should
going
explain
to, right now,
this.
we'll take it out of our surplus.
Right,
There will be a surplus rolled over into this year, but it's not to exceed 275. I could use some of the reserves we currently have. I don't want to use them because there's not much there.
right.
And if anyone saw Scalpino Park this year, we got that done with a grant. And we're getting a lot done
Yeah.
for a little bit of money, I believe.
Yep.
Are there other visions of what to do with the property? Do we have lake access there?
Well, joking around, I mean, and the contractor and a couple other people said they would like to see us put in like a dock, okay,
Right.
to go and fish off and things of that nature. Again, right now, we're gonna concentrate on getting this done. Next year, we'll look into it. We have to ask the DEC, gotta ask the DEP. So to see, can we do it? Can we sink piers into the water? So, and if and when we get money. So right now,
Right.
yes, we really can't go too much closer to the lake than we are now because it's actually wetlands. So we're kind of stuck. You know, when we mow the grass down there, you know, if it rains, it's just extra wet because it's right
Right.
next to the reservoir, not reservoir, the lake.
It is.
But there's really not much we really can do with it. The building itself can do a lot of things inside though. But outside, there's not much room to do much.
Yeah,
of
I'd
it.
love eventually a bigger deck, but I think that'll depend on wetlands. And I think it's just really important right now to get this done and then reevaluate as we go
Yeah.
and see what's needed, if anything.
Now, the seniors, I went through all the old records, the seniors wanted a deck. Yet when I'm standing in front of them, no, we don't need a deck, we don't want a deck. Well, you said you wanted one.
Yeah.
So, anyway, no deck at this time, we're gonna have like a 3-foot or 4-foot walkway, whatever the minimum requirement.
6
6 foot?
Yep. that's what
Okay,
he said.
6-foot walkway to get from one end to the other, instead of building 2 separate staircases.
Right.
And at some point in time, yes, but I'm telling you, the view is so nice, if we put a
It is.
roof on it or enclose that deck, you're
No, I
gonna
wouldn't do
ruin
that.
the look of the lake. So
Right.
it's gonna be 6 of one, half dozen of the other.
Right.
Okay. Any other questions?
Not from me.
I'm just excited to get this done. We've talked about it for a long time,
Yeah.
so looking forward to the finish line. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, let's move on. I make a motion to go to the regular portion of the work session.
Of
Make a
the
mo-
regular meeting?
Re-
Did you make the motion? I'll second.
Yeah, not the work session, the regular meeting. I got the regular part. Yeah, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, waive the reading of the correspondence. Approval of the voucher list. Oh, no, you know what? I wrote it down. I left it, so. I got it early today. It was way too early for me. Okay, the vouchers, $966,787.95. So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
I sent you a special thing today. Did you get it? Yeah?
I did.
Okay.
Thank you.
John had asked a question about something on the vouchers, and I sent it to him earlier today. Okay, setting of the meeting dates and public hearing. All meetings will be held at 1360 Route 22, Brewster, New York, at 7 p.m. unless otherwise noted. Next meeting will be Thursday, November 8th, 2018. At that point in time, we will know who the town board member will be sitting here. They're both in the audience tonight. Good evening. One of you will be sitting up here. Don't rush up here now. You got to wait for the election. And, but you won't be here on the 8th because the election is on the 6th, and you have to wait for the election to be certified, and it takes place thereafter. And the meeting after that, someone will be here. It'll be Thursday, November 29th, 2018, and that public hearing's been postponed.
Yep. Thanks.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Waive the reading of the budget transfers. Number 5 is a resolution, local law for the farmer's market. And I think this will be the third and last time we have to do this one. Okay. Now therefore be resolved that the town board of the town of Southeast hereby adopts local law number 3 of 2018, which would enact amendments to chapter 72 of the code of the town of Southeast entitled Farmers Markets to clarify provisions of the original enactment of chapter 72 under local law number 9 of 2017, and be further resolved that the town clerk, be and is hereby authorized and directed to A, enter said local law in the minutes of this meeting and in the code book of the town of Southeast, and B, give due notice of the adoption of said local law by filing such with the Secretary of State of New York within the time required by law. So move for discussion.
I'll second.
Discussion. All in favor? Aye. Number 6, it's a resolution declared town board lead agency for the home occupation law. Now therefore be resolved that pursuant to 617.6 B, small b, 1 of the State Environmental Quality Review Act, SEQR, the town board of the town of Southeast hereby declares itself lead agency for the purpose of SEQR for this type 1 action. So move for discussion.
I'll second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
And the last thing on the agenda this evening is the supervisor's financial report. Okay, we have a little red flag that goes up, and believe it or not, even I put extra money in the budget last year, and I'm putting extra money in the budget this year because that little red flag was going to start to wave, and that's on the outside council line. So we had to increase it a little bit more. You never know what it's going to be. We're not crazy over it, but it is what it is. So we're going to expend more money, but we do have money to offset it in other budget lines, because again, I have to compliment all of our employees and our department heads, because they really help hold the line here in the town. And I don't know if they're afraid of me. You're not afraid of me, are you? Nah. Any rate, they do a really, really good job, and we save money. I got Michelle, everybody cutting paper, you know, we're done the thing, we cut it in quarters, and use it for whatever, we're saving money. So at any rate, things are good there, but outside council lines starting to show a little bit into the red at this point in time. And the town engineer has gone into the red only because we're having such a good year. We estimated so much money, the revenue is coming into the building department's higher, but his particular budget line's in the red, which we can offset with the revenues, but I'm just telling you, if you look at that line in particular, it's, you know, going toward the red, but it's not to worry, because someone's out there making money to offset that expense. Now you happy?
Yes.
Miss Eckhart, when she sat out there as a candidate a couple times, every meeting she'd say, what about financials? And I've really disappointed her since she's been here, because we don't have any problems.
Yeah, see?
Anyway, and you're sitting here too, so,
Yeah, better be good.
yeah. Okay, with that, I'll take public comment. I'll take town board comment.
I have a few things. I would like to say I was so sorry and sad to see that Bob Palmer.
Now, you're taking away how I'm closing this meeting.
Oh.
But you can get
No,
it.
no, then I will defer
No,
to you.
no, you can
No.
talk, I'll say good things too.
So,
You get it
no.
from the Democratic side, I'll get it from the Republican
Well, I
side.
wasn't going to be political at all.
No, it's
but
not,
I
but-
got, he did the Bob Palmer Project, for those of you who don't know, and he used to, okay, all right. But you can't praise him enough, you really can't. So I will go on to my next topic, but the town will really, really miss Bob Palmer. He was just a fantastic guy, so I'll leave the rest to Tony.
No, you go ahead.
No.
I'll fill in the blanks.
Okay, you can, he and his wife lived on Peaceable Hill for forever and ever, and I did always petition and stop by his house, and he couldn't have been a nicer person, and the same with his wife, so, she died quite a few years ago and is missed, and he'll be greatly missed in the town of Southeast for all of his, he was really just, his citizenship is just outstanding, so I will really miss Bob. I also would like to tell people that I walked the Diverting Reservoir Trail with the DEP. Our permit, although this isn't really town business, but I think it's important for the town, our permit had expired. It had been 5 years. This is a trail that is maintained by concerned residents of Southeast, and it is, the insurance and all is done under by the Putnam Land Trust. I want to thank John Lord, because he's one of the stewards of the trail, and thank CRSE, because they've been fantastic about helping to keep it clean. I shouldn't give my husband a plug, so I won't. Yes, my husband's a steward with John.
Yeah.
And they work very well together.
We have a lot of fun.
Yeah, so I'm really pleased to tell everyone that the DEP so far was very pleased by the way the trail looks. They're also very happy by, that it's used all the time. So it looks like they'll renew our permit and it will be open to the public. I've also asked for if we can extend the trail, and I have been doing this for the past few years, so we'll have to wait and hear from the DEP. But I want to thank the DEP because they've been fantastic partners on this. And that's all I have.
I just, thinking about it, I wanted to just thank, we're going to miss Liz. I just wanted to thank her for her years of service on the board. We'll definitely miss her, but I wish her well in
Yeah,
her
you got to
retirement.
see her.
Yeah, I got to see her yesterday. She looks great. She's walking way better, so. But again, I just wanted to quickly say thank you for everything she did for the town. Look forward to working with the new town board member in a couple of weeks.
Yeah. Yes, I really miss Liz's sense of humor, but we'll get someone else funny on the board. So,
John?
I have nothing. Other
No
than-
way.
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks a lot. I didn't hear from Will tonight, so just, hi, Will. Hi, John. Thank you.
Okay, in closing tonight's meeting on Bob Palmer, I've known him for a long time. I've lived in Brewster now since 1957. I didn't really know Bob Palmer. There's a lot of Palmers, but I didn't know Bob Palmer. I heard of him when I became a politician. I got to hear his name even more often. And not that he was a politician, but he was very interested in the veterans. And when I ran for office as a legislator, I think it was 1992, and I went on the board in 1993. Bob Palmer, John Santarelli, Rooster Smith, Lou Gasparini. The first three were World War II vets. Lou Gasparini was a Korean War vet. At one point in time, there was a board down on Main Street. Actually, it was across from, I guess it's the Extra Mart. It used to be a Sunoco station. And it's called, what's that park?
Bailey.
Bailey Park it was called. And they evidently had a sign there telling all the World War II veterans that served and partial of the Korean War vets. Somehow that sign got taken down, got put aside somewhere, didn't go to Amy because we would know it had been well preserved. It got somewhere in the town somewhere and got destroyed, the names got lost, so it was real hell. So they said how much it meant. When I went out to the doors, I had a lot of people ask about that. So when I got elected, I made myself a promise, and I told those gentlemen, if I get elected, I'll get it back. So my project for 3 years, I worked on that, and Bob Palmer was my biggest helper. You know, we went to the American Legions, the VFW, but Bob Palmer was like holding my hand. Every time I needed to know a person's name, that man knew it. Now, we try to be as perfect as possible, but you go to select the service, or we call it down to Washington. The files there long ago were burnt, they whatever. So he was responsible probably for 10% of the names that I couldn't provide. He knew them by name. So he kind of helped my hand through the entire process, was very, very helpful. So those 4 gentlemen is what you have now down there. Now, after I got done, we didn't have any money, of course. Never have any money in Southeast. And, you know, I got someone to donate a piece of wood. Someone else painted it, and we put up. So what I did twice a year is I took all the names. Now, when I went with the World War I, World War II, I'm saying, well, what about the guys before that? What about the guys after that? Vietnam veterans, Korean War veterans, everyone should be included. Then the Town of Southeast book came out, The History of Town of Southeast, which we have quite a few left. How much they run?
I think there's,
How much would it cost?
there's $75?
$75. I'll tell you.
No,
it's
30.
30? Whatever the price is, it's worth the price of admission. It's really, really good. And then maybe in about 50 years, we'll put it on the internet for free, okay? But at any rate, we do have some books still. And in there, they had quite a few names, okay? So what I have to start doing is verifying those names to be accurate. And again, Bob Palmer mentioned so-and-so. People had nicknames. He was a really instrumental in helping me get that done. So it took me 3 years to get it done. And those gentlemen appreciated it more than anyone, because that meant a lot to them, that everyone be recognized. And then, of course, from there, Bob Palmer went out to every was it 4th of July, over the holidays, and planted a flag at every veterans. And that's how the Bob Palmer project came into effect. Not because of me now, because of what he did for years upon years and years. So he was very instrumental in making what that honor roll is. I did the legwork, he did the brain work, and it was a lot of fun. So I worked with him for 3 solid years, and we became very good friends. Once he kind of, I guess he was retired for almost the whole time I ever knew him, but had some very good conversations. He lived here for 97 years in the town of Southeast, and that's a long time. He was married to his wife for 63. Some people only have 63 days these days, but 63 years. Very good family. I knew the daughters, and a very good family, and we're saddened by his loss. So I think I covered a couple things you did not. We're joking around because that's Bob Palmer. I mean, he was a nice man, and he'd like to know he's being talked about the way he is tonight, and we had a little bit of fun with his name. So in closing tonight, in Bob Palmer's honor, we're doing that this evening. So a moment of silence, please. Okay, thank you. So on behalf of Mr. Palmer and others, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to close tonight's meeting.
And you are a veteran as well, so he'll appreciate it more than ever.
Thank you.
And I'm not closing it because I'm a veteran either. Go ahead.
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Thank you all for coming.